Weekly, GarageBand, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly. Need an answer to your question. John, you'll have a suggestion. He's a fountain of all knowledge. I think he might have gone to GarageBand College. What he doesn't know, we'll try and find out. So join the chat and give him a shout. Pete John, Pete John, GarageBand Weekly.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to GarageBand Weekly, where I'm having way too much fun with the bass. Yes, on this week's episode, we are in Logic Pro. I haven't renamed the show, but for the next probably few weeks, we'll be looking at a little more Logic Pro stuff and maybe a little bit less GarageBand. And I just discovered the slide articulation here, which is altogether too much bloody fun to play with. We will dive into that in a little while. G'day, how are you? I hope you're doing well. This is GarageBand Weekly. My name is Pete Johns, and for the next hour or so, we'll be talking all things GarageBand, Logic Pro, iPad, iPhone, iOS, Apple, you name it, we're going to talk about it. And we do it live here each and every week. So if you would like to join us live, make sure you head on over to the channel, subscribe, do all the... oh my God, my bell's not working today. Do all the bell things, and you can join us for this weekly show. We will get into things in just a little jiffy, but before that, we've got some news and notes to get to. We're going to say hello to the folks who are here live. In fact, let's do that first. Let's say g'day to Ashley HM. Let's say g'day to Mark Bro. Let's say g'day to Thomas Christ. Yes, you can become a patron. You can become a member. You can do all the good things. G'day to Javel and the Falcro and Al Davis, who are all here nice and early for the show. And I hope you are all doing well. Don't forget, we are. Just because I'm ranting about all sorts of bass-related stuff, it doesn't mean we're not interactive. So if you've got anything you want to say, you can put your question. Just put a big Q in front of it if you've got a question, and we're more than happy to attempt to answer any of your GarageBand or Logic Pro or mobile recording related questions. You got questions? We've got attempted answers. So news and notes, what's been happening, what's been going on around the traps? Well, the biggest piece of news that's happening at the moment in the world has been, of course, Logic Pro for iPad. We are 1 week, officially 1 week. I've had it for 2. I know people don't like me because of that, but that's okay. It just means that I've been able to learn a little bit more and get up to speed, but I've still got a lot to learn, I've got to tell you. What are the highlights for me? It's been really good. I'm really enjoying the session players. I think that they are making my songwriting, or it's going to make my songwriting in the future, a lot better and easier. I really enjoy the chords track. That makes arranging in Logic Pro easier. I don't have to use weird markers and rename tracks to the chords to try and actually get a good arrangement together. So that's going to be cool. And the stem splitter, I haven't used it a heap, but it's cool. Let's not beat around the bush. It's cool that you can split out your vocals. In fact, I used it for my karaoke style happy hour show I did on the weekend that some of you may have caught. So if you didn't, you can check out the latest happy hour. And I used the stem splitter live in real time to split out my vocals and then sing over the top of my instrumental tracks. And it worked really well. I've got to say, it worked exceptionally well 90% of the time. So that was pretty good. And the Chroma Glow plugin is cool. Like it just adds that nice analog warmth. And of course, if you haven't caught up on any of this stuff, it's all here on the channel. Just search my name. Here's the thing. Here's the hack. If you want to find something, just search Pete Johns, spelt as it sounds, and name of thing. So if you want to learn about the bass in Logic Pro, you go Pete Johns Logic Bass. If you want to learn about the stem splitter, search Pete Johns Stem Splitter, and you'll find it straight away. It's easy as that. Yes, coffee. I've just had 2 coffees, which is why I've got a little bit of energy today, and we will be diving into the bass in just a jiffy. But the second note we have here, the new iPads are out. The new M4 iPads. No, I don't have one. Yes, I have asked if I can borrow one because I'm cheeky like that now. But I am still rocking the M2 iPad, which is doing a great job here with the Logic Pro for iPad 2. So the new iPads are out. We've got the new iPad Airs, which have kind of been the forgotten stepchild of iPad, because the new iPad Air is just last year's iPad Pro. Really, they've just taken all the guts from the Pro and stuck it in the Air and called it the Air. So no one's really that excited about that, except if you want a cheap, what is really good iPad Pro from like a year ago, and then get the iPad Air, and you can pay a lot less. The big news though, of course, is the M4 iPad Pro. People have been saying that it's great. It does really well. And the M4 processor absolutely crushes. The screen seems to be, of all the reviews I've read and watched, people are talking about the screen, the actual OLED screen, being able to actually light up all those pixels and get those really deep blacks and really bright, vibrant colors has apparently been a bit of a game changer. From a musical point of view, though, nah. Nah, not really. Doesn't really require it. But if you were buying an iPad right now and you had unlimited budget, of course, you'd get the M4 iPad Pro. If you're a GarageBand user or a Logic Pro user, I don't know that you need more than the M1 or the M2 right now. That being said, I have heard folks that have the M1 iPad Pro saying if you put a bunch of Chroma Glow plugins and you use a bunch of different external instruments, you start to see some slowdown. So definitely do watch and check out the reviews and consider, before you buy, consider what you actually need. If your budget allows you to future-proof yourself, go for it, but don't feel so bad if you don't have the latest and greatest. I never do. Very rarely do I have the latest and greatest version. So thin too. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about the thinness. It's actually the thinnest Apple product ever. And I find that really wacky because I wish I brought it with me, but I own the very last iPod Touch ever made, and that thing is thin. Like, that thing is super thin. That's like almost playing card thin. Not quite. But yeah, it's amazing that they've produced this iPad that's so thin. Now, many people, myself included, would say something along the lines of, if you could make it 2 millimeters thicker and add a headphone jack and an extra extra USB-C or Thunderbolt port, I'd love you forever. But that's just simply not going to happen. The genie is uncorked. The genie is out of the bottle, and we can't stuff it back in. Yeah. Yes, you can't get. I was going to make another comment there. That was a little bit grosser, but I won't do that. Yeah, we can't put the genie back in the bottle. Now that Apple have gone all in on as thin and light as possible, they're going to continue going as thin and light as possible, to the point where they. So here's the weird thing with the new iPads. What I was reading is that the battery that they've put in there is actually smaller than the battery in the last one because it's more efficient. So they wanted to be able to still do their 10 hours of battery life thing, but they knew that they didn't have to make any changes because they didn't have to put that same battery or a bigger battery in there because they can get the same amount of hours out of it with the OLED and with the new efficiency of the M4 chips, with the new 3 nanometer process, that they can have a smaller battery. Now, if you ask any professional or pro user of Logic Pro, of GarageBand, of even iMovie or Final Cut Pro, and if you said, would you like 1 millimeter thinner or would you like an extra 2 hours of battery life? I don't know that there's too many people that are pro users that would say, thinner, please. Please, sir, make it thinner. No, Tim Apple, we would actually like it thicker with a bigger battery. But yes, since when has the the need of us as creators? But that's the thing. The reason that that's not a thing is that we're not the target demographic. Weirdly enough, people like us who use the pro apps on iPad are not really the target demographic, and they actually will sell more by making these thinner and lighter and cooler so that people that are using them can show other people around them. There's a lot of stuff that's for show, isn't there? Yeah, like, so what is it? Substance over form? No, form over function. Yeah. There's a lot of form over function stuff that goes on in the technology world. It ain't for me, but it's obviously for enough people, and these businesses are smart, and they're the trillion-dollar companies, so I kind of got to trust that they know what they're doing. Anyway, you can go and read Logic. You can go and read the iPad reviews. There's plenty of them out there, and pick and choose and see what you think. The good news is, as always, it just pushes all the other iPads down. I think the best thing right now, your best bang for buck buy, is the 10th generation vanilla iPad. I think that's great. Like, if for someone running GarageBand, absolutely. Like, if you're running Logic Pro, yeah, now that we've got these things that need Apple Silicon, I'd probably go for an Air or a Pro. But if you're running GarageBand, or you've got like kids that are getting into music, bloody hell, for what, $300, you can pick up that 10th generation. You've got USB-C, you got a decent screen, and yeah, you got a great processor in that thing. So go with it. Go with your bad self. WWDC is just around the corner. There it is. So yeah, June 10th to 14th. So we don't have all the details yet, but there will no doubt be a big keynote because that's just what they do. A big announcement, big launch video or launch presentation at the start. It's probably going to be a pre-recorded video. I don't think we're ever going back. Apple are now so ingrained in the pre-recorded videos, I can't see them going back to doing the live presentation with Tim going, good morning, and relying on things working. Like when they can spend the time to make a polished, high production value piece of video, why would they bother doing a live performance? To the point where they're now inviting people back to Apple Park now that we're post-COVID. He says, as I probably know more people with COVID right now than I ever have in the last 4 years. Now that we're post-COVID, we don't have to worry about getting people and gathering people together. But yeah, apparently they'll gather them together and make them watch a video. But that video will be about who knows, but it's a developers conference, so we'll be no doubt hearing more about iPad OS and iOS 18 and beyond. We'll be hearing about the new version of Mac. What Californian town should it be? It should be the imagine if it's Mac OS Sacramento. We're just dialing it in this time. Sorry to anyone who may live or enjoy Sacramento. I tried to think of somewhere that wasn't too derogatory. But yeah, they always go with these nice, picturesque California areas, Sonoma and Monterey and Sacramento, Fullerton, Palm Beach. No, that's in Florida. Yeah. So WWDC, we'll find out what happens. What am I excited about for WWDC? I want to hear about when new Macs are coming. And hopefully we will get some sort of indicator because I'm still running the 2020, the 2020, it's 2020 or 2021. It's the oldest M1. I bought the M1 Mac Mini, absolute base level configuration. And let's just say it's feeling its age. So it's feeling its age a little bit. And yeah, I'm hoping that they will announce M3 or M4 perhaps, Mac Minis or Mac Studios, because I believe that will be my next purchase. So WWDC, watch this space. I'll be covering it here as I always do. Last little bit of news before we start. So we got a big Logic Pro live day or night, depending where you are in the world, Friday morning or Thursday afternoon or evening, depending where you are in the world. We have this. I'm going to be catching up with Jade Starr and talking about all things Logic Pro. So there is a link down in the description. I'll also throw it here in the live chat for anyone watching live. If you want to set yourself a reminder, drop a like and come and watch us chat about all things Logic Pro. You can go ahead and do that. And prior to that, it hasn't been recorded yet, which is why I don't have a link for it, but I'm recording it today. I'm catching up with Patrick from the GarageBand and the Logic Pro guide to talk about Logic Pro, and that'll be this week's podcast. So we'll be getting the views of two folks, me and Patrick, who got early access to Logic Pro for iPad. We'll be talking about what that was like, learning on our own in secrecy under non-disclosure agreements, and then being able to share our content with the rest of the world and how everyone has reacted. Because, yeah, you know how at the start I said the reactions has been overwhelmingly positive? Yeah, there's always going to be that undercurrent to the point where I've been in some groups and I'm like, why are you even, if you don't like Apple and you don't like iPads and you don't like Logic Pro, why are you in a Logic Pro for iPad group? I'm not really understanding your strategy here. So, yeah. There will be some spleens vented, not only about the product and its launch, but yeah, also about some of the reactions to it. And I get it. I get it. We want perfection. Who doesn't want perfection in their technology? But you know what? It's a version, it's a .0 update of a product. I don't know. Maybe my expectations are just way too low and I need to step up. Maybe I've drunk the Kool-Aid, etc. Did you know that term is actually quite horrible? Drink the Kool-Aid is based on that Jim Jones cult where he forced them to drink the Kool-Aid. Makes it a little bit darker when you think about it in those terms, doesn't it? Anyway, yeah. So it will be good to hear from Patrick, unfiltered Patrick, because like Patrick doesn't do a heap of live, and this one won't be live, but it'll be live to tape. Patrick doesn't do a heap of live stuff, so that's why I love to get him under the microscope and get his unfiltered reactions to what goes on, and we'll be able to get a few. We always have a laugh and we always have a good time. So yeah, me and Patrick, and then me and Jade, and that'll all be Friday morning or Thursday afternoon, evening, depending on your time zones. That's your news and notes. That's our intro there at the 15-minute mark. We are going to dive in and look at Logic Pro. So yes, hello Chicken Nugget King. Yes, I know that this is GarageBand Weekly, and if you missed the very start of the show, I did sort of apologize, because we are going to be doing a lot more Logic Pro for iPad stuff when for the next few weeks, because it's new, and I know even folks that are like, no, I'm all GarageBand. Just knowing what you're missing out on, and either going, hey, maybe I'll check out this Logic Pro thing eventually, or maybe this makes you think, actually, I don't need any of that. So yeah, either way is fine. Remember, use what you use. Just create music. And this is this is my biggest problem that I have with the folks that are spending all their time finding faults and finding bugs and criticizing Apple and telling them what they should and shouldn't be doing. They're not making enough music. Maybe their hobby is more finding faults than it is actually creating music. But I'd hope not. I would hope not, but I fear that is the case. Let us dive in. Before we do so, I am going to run a little ad here. So if you would like to watch this ad, you may. You may not get one. You may get one. And while I do that, while folks may be getting an ad, I will fire up the old Logic Pro. We're going to create a new project here, or project, depending how you like to say words. And we're going to open a new project. By the way, yeah, you can see all the sound packs down here. And if you haven't already done it, highly recommend, against the success of my own channel, tap this one, the add a bass line with bass player. The lessons are actually really good. They give you the basics though, but we don't want no basics. We want to dive in and we want to get all the stuff. So if you watch this next 40 minutes, I'm going to tell you everything. All right, let's hit the tracks button. Now, there's a few ways that we can add bass here. The newest way, of course, is to use the session player, to tap here and to go to bass player and tap on that one, and it's going to open up a bass player track. This is where I want to pause and explain a little bit about Logic Pro, because this is what's tripped me up, and it's definitely tripped a few folks up as well. There's actually 4 different places that you can dial in your bass player. I know, super confusing. So first and foremost, in fact, there's 5. First and foremost this is the bass player. This is like the drummer. It's got nothing to do with the actual bass sound. So this isn't your bass guitar that you're using or the instrument patch you're using. This isn't the amp settings. This isn't the guitar settings. This is just you instructing the bass player what to do. Now, you can change up that bass player by tapping here, and if you go from, say, the pop songwriter to the pop rock, it may use this change patch. So if change patch is on and we go to pop rock, you'll see that it will actually change. See how it's gone from simple foundation to punchy bottom, which may be my favorite name for a bass. So now we've got the punchy bottom. That's actually changed the instrument patch. And if we come into the patches down in the bottom left here and go to instrument patches, you can see this is what it's changed. It's changed that instrument patch. Now, if you want to change the bass player, but you want the exact same bass sound. So let's just say you're listening to this bass and you're like, I definitely want the punchy bottom, but I'd like them to change things up a little bit. You can come in here and say, let's leave the patch alone. Don't change the patch, but we want the pop songwriter. So we want a more poppy kind of bass player, but we'd love them to be playing the punchy bottom bass. Well, that's what you can do, and you can go. So same bass sound, but they're just playing it differently. Which can be fun. So that is sort of the first way that you can change things. Now, you can just mix and match your patches to your heart's content. So the actual instrument that you use, if you tap in the bottom left here on the patches, you can go to instrument patches. If you're not already in there, I'll just show you the full way. So you've added a bass player here. You go to the bottom left and you go to instrument patches up here. You can now select from any of these and you can just drag them straight on there, or if you have this button on there, it'll automatically go on there. So I'm a rock legend, so I would like to choose the rock legend. And if I tap on that one, it is going to change it up. And now it's using the rock legend bass patch. It's going to sound different. Very cool. I actually want something funkier. Let's change this up from the root note to most notes just to make it go all over the shop here. So we can actually change it there. And if you want to make sure that you're only using bass, you can actually just tap bass up here. Is that bass or brass? Let's select bass, because you can actually add any instrument patch you like here and it will just change it up. But if we want to make sure that we're only using bass patches, there you go. Here's all of our different bass patches. And if you want to make sure it's only electric as opposed to electronic, you can tap on electric basses there. And then this is just your bass patches that we can use. So if you want to go with, say, like a distant vibe, we can change it up again. And it's going to change. And now we get something like this. That's a pretty cool sound, right? And you can hear that it's changing, it's adding some slides and things, because every time we change the actual player here and we change the things like the complexity and we change the notes, it's going to change a bunch of other things. And you can get to those here in the details, where you can see here it's added slides and it's changed up a bunch of these options. Now, for today's video, we're not going through all this. Not in detail anyway. We'll touch on it just to play around with it. But I've been through this in last week's show, and I've also got a complete video all about using the bass player. But we're going to dive more into customizing your bass sounds as opposed to the actual player. But real quick, yep, you've got your change there. Your perform again button's actually cool. So if you see a performance and you're like, nah, I actually want it to be something different, you can do that. I actually kind of really dig that one. Let's put some drums in here, by the way. It's no fun just listening to bass by itself. Let's get some funky drum action happening here as well by just adding a drummer. And who do we want? The pop rock is basically just Kyle. Let's go psychedelic. I don't think I've used psychedelic before, but we want something a bit simple and a little bit laid back. So let's just drive these back. We'll just hit the perform again button a couple of times to get something a bit random, and that's actually super funky. Let's turn the bass up a little bit so we can hear the bass best. So yeah, we can change all of these by going to our main tab, changing up the pattern, changing the number of notes, the lowest note we play. Let's throw some fills in here. We'll throw some moderately complex fills in here. You can swing it over here. We can use things like dead notes and slides and pickup hits, and we can change the feel, dynamics, and the tempo from double time to half time, and you can humanize it. It won number one. I did a podcast last week, and Humanize got number one because I love just dialing in some human into my robot. It just makes it, funnily enough, a little bit more of a humanized. I kind of really like that bass patch, this distant vibe. It has almost like a little chorus on there. Very cool. So what are we looking at here now? Well, there's another place. So yeah, you've got your change up here where you can change your type of player. You can either change the patch or not. You can change your instrument patch over here. But guess what? There's yet another place, which is your presets. So up the top here, you've got presets, which will change up all of these. So at the moment, it's using inner strength. So you've got presets. This doesn't, again, affect your instrument. It'll affect all these player options. So if we go with this one, the remember when, see how it's pumped up the fill amount and it's changed up all of these things. So changing your presets not going to change your patch. It's not going to change your bass sound, but it is going to change the player and the way they play. So now we're going to get something like this. I personally liked it better before, so we're going to undo. And by undoing, we go back to the inner strength and we're back to our very cool. I might actually make my phrasing from medium to long just to connect those notes a little more like this. Yep, you got to do it. Got to do it, Ashley. You got to dial in the human to make it as White Zombie would say, more human than a human. More human than a human. So this is all cool, yeah? We can play around with this and we can get some cool bass grooves to go with our drums, to go with our keys, to do all of our things. But how do we change the bass tone itself? How do we change the sound of the bass? Well, that's in yet another location. So for those playing along at home, you add your bass player, which is your session player here. You can then change your patch. You can then change your preset to change your bass player or dial in your own manual settings in the bass player. And then you can come down here to the plugin and actually change your bass sound. So to do that, we tap on the plugin button and there it is, the studio bass. If we double tap this one, here it is. And this is what I want to learn about today because I don't know a heap about this. And you and I, in the rest of this video, are going to learn together all about the studio bass. So yeah, pump up the human. So the human is going to do the changes here. So what do we have? Well, the studio bass is the actual bass that's being used. You've got 6 different basses to choose from. You've got your classic 60s, rock, session, modern, and American upright. So you've got 5 electric basses and you've got an upright bass, and you can choose any one of those by just tapping it. Let's go back to the classic bass. There it is, your classic P bass. I think it's a P bass. They just can't say P bass because P bass is like a Fender trademark, I'd say. And you can hear it's going to change up the sound of your bass. Let's really hear the difference by going to the upright bass. But you can hear there that it's still using that same processing, right? Because we haven't changed this. We're still using the distant vibe patch. And this is where it gets confusing because people are like, but I changed it here, but it hasn't changed here. Well, yeah, this is like these settings. This is your plugin settings. But if you do change it, as you saw there, if we start changing it now, that actually changes our bass. So the connection between your instrument patches and your studio bass is that every time we change one of these patches, it will dial in a different bass. So for instance, the Dark Soul has dialed in the 60s bass and it's given it all these different sounds. So that's why people get confused when you change the instrument patch and you're like, well, why? You said that doesn't change the bass. Well, it does. I know. Are you following? Are you confused yet? So when we change this, it does change your studio bass settings as well. So with the 60s bass, we get that kind of sound. And of course you can then change it up. So once you add the patch, so you got the dance floor one here, and it's going to use the 60s bass. We can adjust it there. Now what you can do, we can actually now change all of these. So you've got complete control. So you can dial it in. What was the one we were using before that I liked? The distant vibe. Let's throw the distant vibe back on here because I like this session bass sound. This is my favorite sound here in the basses. And there's a whole bunch of different options that we have. And in fact, here's something I've prepared earlier. If you download the Logic Pro for iPad guide, which you can do so over at the Apple website, just search for Logic Pro for iPad, download the PDF. This will take you through the studio bass section here. Takes you through all of this, and this is what we're going to go through now, because guess what, I'm learning on the fly because I haven't actually been through the manual yet because the manual wasn't available yet. When I had my pre-release copy, this stuff wasn't in there. I asked for a manual and they gave me one, but it didn't have this stuff in here. So we're going to learn this together. So the studio bass contains parameters for volume, tone, pickup controls, and other sonic characteristics typical of the selected bass instrument. As with a real instrument, notes when played with the studio bass can have different tonal qualities depending on their neck position. When a note is played, studio bass provides visual feedback by indicating the position on the hand in the notes area resembling a fretboard at the bottom of the window. This is really cool. If you hadn't seen this, you may not have maximized the size of this, because if you're playing around with this, you might have had this down here and you're just dialing in your settings here and you're like, all right, I'm going to turn the distortion up, I'm going to turn the mute up, I'm going to adjust the volume here. Let's go from finger to a picked style, and we've dialed in my bass, and then we play. And we can go with that. I actually prefer the finger style. But this is cool, because if we just grab the top here and drag up, look at this little visualization we get down here. This is showing us where it's being played. So take a look. And did you see when you had that the little grace note part in there, where it just went, it really looks cool. Like, it shows all the different spots, and we can then start using different combinations here. So if we put a heap more slides in here, where's our double stops? I think they're out here. Velocity, octave. Yeah, let's play lots of octaves. Oh no, we don't have double stops on this bass, do we? Let's put some pickup hits on there. Let's use a bunch of dead notes. You can actually see how a bass player would really play this, and it's actually really interesting to watch. Check it out. And you've probably already seen this, but see this little last played here? It's actually telling you. Like, you can almost learn how to play bass just by watching this, because it's telling you which of the fingers, when they're playing fingerstyle, they're actually using. Take a look again. So you can see when it's hitting dead notes, you can see all that sort of stuff. Pretty cool, yeah. We can obviously adjust things like the mute and the distortion here. Volume controls. So you've got control here over the neck volume and the bridge volume. So if you want more of a sort of mellow tone, that's what you'd go with the neck volume control here on the pickup. Or if you want more of a treble, a harsher tone, turn up this bridge one. And you can mix and match those however you like. And guess what? We got another details tab, baby. So you've got portamento over here that we can dial in. I've forgotten what that means. I'm going to be very honest with you there. We don't have access to this one. We've got the string noise, though. You've got hum and hiss. And we've got this one. What does that say? Release. Okay, so you've got string noise and your release noise. So you can control both the noise when they hit the string and when they release it. So if we put the noise off for the hitting and just have the release noise, kind of loses that attack sound. Or if you want more of an attack, let's hear the string noise. Pretty cool. You got pitch bend. So when you pitch bend it, at the moment it goes up 2 semitones. You can make your pitch bends go way up. Let's make our pitch bends go an entire octave up and down. You can kind of go a bit crazy with this stuff, can't you? That won't change it. Now, the reason that some of this stuff is not actually changing is that we're not playing the bass. So we're not actually playing the bass sounds, so it won't actually, even though it'll change the tone and things like the pitch bend only come into effect when we're actually playing the bass by adding the surface here and playing it here. Although I still don't seem to be able to. I can't seem to bend it the whole octave, so maybe it's not working for me. I just want to bend it a whole octave. Maybe you have to actually pull the string far enough up to bend it a whole octave. No, maybe not. Let's read the full manual and find out what we're actually doing here. So we can add these back in. Let's get rid of our play surface. Let's bring our plug-in back in here and layer these up. Let us go back to the manual. And we can see. So there's another thing that we have here, which is articulation, which can help you create expressive, nuanced performance. And you can even use like a key switch map for articulation. So you can change the articulations as you play. That's well beyond what I do, because if you're using like a MIDI controller and you want to change the articulations as you play, you can do that. So what's articulations? Well, they're in this menu here. So we've got things like the index, middle, you've got the legato, hammer on, pull off, dead notes, harmonics. I like this harmonics one. And again, we'll just bring our fretboard back up here so you can play with just harmonics, and that kind of sounds cool. You can go with like a slow slide that I was playing around with at the start. Why is my slide not working? Okay, now it's making a fool out of me. It made a monkey out of you. Yeah, can we play with like grace notes? Yeah, no, I can't work out why it's not working for me. Maybe because I'm in the session player. Maybe I have to actually add it. Actually, that's a good point. I think I have to add it as a MIDI instrument because it's here in session player. It's not letting me play because it's got its session player going on there. Pitch bend is on the pitch bend wheel on the keyboard. Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll try that afterwards. We'll add a keyboard instrument. But I'll show you another way, because this is all bass player, right? But before we dive in, because we've got a whole bunch of stuff here in the bass instrument that's in the manual, all about the studio bass. So let's before we do that, let's do a bass a different way. So we're going to mute out that one. We're going to add in, and we can add a MIDI track. And if we tap the three dots down below here, we can go to the patch or instrument. If you scroll down over here, you can go studio instruments, and we can now tap on the studio bass. So we can play, if we create this now, we can play our bass using the keyboard here. Or we can use the fretboard, so you can use whatever type of interface you would like. Let's go to guitar fretboard. There we go. All right, now we'll load up the studio bass here, and we'll go fingerstyle, and we'll change these up. So we'll go through each one of these, and we'll see if this is actually going to work for us. This is all experimentation here, folks. Yeah, I know, but people are like, you know what you're doing? I'm like, no, usually not. Usually I'm just experimenting and finding out as I go. So let's go through these. So the instrument pop up in the studio bass. So you've got classic, you've got 60s, you've got rock, you've got session, you've got modern, and you've got American upright. And then we can switch between the main and the details tabs. So that's exactly what we've got here. We can select what type of bass we're playing by going through these. So we can go to the rock bass, and it'll take a couple of seconds, and then let's just try this articulation and see if I can get it working again now. I had it working in the intro. No. For whatever reason, I can't seem to get it working. Have I got the right one selected? Yeah. At the very start of the show, I did this and it worked, because of course it did. Because of course it works when you're experimenting, and then as soon as you come in here. What about the keyboard? If we go to the keyboard mode. Yeah, so it works when you're playing it on keyboard. So it must just be that you need to use a keyboard interface in order to actually play this. Let's see if we can do that pitch bend thing. Yeah, can we do that whole octave pitch bend now that we're using the keyboard? So I guess it makes sense, but it's a bit disappointing that you need to use the keyboard to play the bass properly. There it is. A really unrealistic octave pitch bend. At least I know it's working now. I do things to the extreme to make sure that they're actually bloody working. Let's just turn up the volume on this bass, just to make sure we can hear it. Okay. So let's go through the other options that we have in here. But by the way, if this annoys you watching Man Learn on live show, I'll have a video on the studio bass in a day or two, so you can wait for that one if you want to. All right, so we can go between the main and the detail, but let's see the common parameters. So playing style, we've already looked at that. So you've got finger, play with the fingers, pick, play with the pick, and slap. Play in a funky slap style. It's only available on the classic and modern bass. Got it. So the playing style is not available for the American upright bass. You may not do anything. So you can't have a picked bass upright. Mute slider controls the degree to which the bass strings are muted, which we played around with before. Definition controls the level of transient attacks on the strings, so kind of how much of that dunk, that pluck and attack kind of sound you get, and is not available for the upright bass as well. We've got the last play, displays the most recently used articulation. This may be different from the articulation shown in the plugin header. So yeah, articulation is its whole thing. It's a whole nother level. And then you've got your main volume there. So classic bass parameters has a volume knob and a tone knob. So let's go through each of these now so that we can see each different type of bass. So if we go back to the classic bass, and we're here in the main section, yeah, we've got volume and tone. So you don't have any control over your separate pickups or anything. You've just got volume and tone, which you can dial in if you put your tone down. It gets more bassy. If you turn it up, it gets more trebly. And that's really all you got. The 60s bass has a few different parameters. You have a neck volume knob. You got the bridge volume knob. You've got the rhythm or solo switch. In the rhythm position, lower frequencies are boosted. In the solo, higher frequencies are boosted. Then you've got a bass switch, which turns the bridge pickup on or off, and a treble, which turns the neck pickup on or off. So let's go and explore the 60s bass and check out these options. So if we're coming into 60s, so yeah, so there you go. So I was wondering about these. So you can set it to rhythm mode, which makes it sound more sort of bassy, or if you're doing a solo, you can use that. You can turn the bass entirely off, which does the same as turning your neck volume all the way down, and you can turn the treble off and you get nothing. You just have the bass on, or you can just have the treble on. So they replicate the actual switches on your guitar if you're using an old Paul McCartney style guitar, and you can adjust the volume, the bridge volume that we did before there as well. What's Emilio say? The side control can be used to play surfaces. Okay, yeah, so the pitch bend wheel and stuff can be used on any of the surfaces. That's a good thing to know. If we change this up to, say, the fretboard again, yeah, okay. So if you just drag it up using the playing style, but if you're using the pitch bend wheel over here, you can do that. And you've got your velocity setting here too, which is cool. So if you want to make sure that it's always loud, you can turn your velocity setting up there. Cool. Good to know. This is why we do these live too, because you folks often know more than I do, which I'm more than happy to admit. All right, your rock bass has got a whole bunch. You got neck volume, neck tone, bridge tone. You got pickup, pop up. So you can pick up, so you got your pickup slider. So you got neck, both, bridge, or stereo. The output of the bridge is the right channel and the output of the neck is the left channel. You can use plugins to dial to dual mono mode to apply different effect settings to each channel. There you go. So your rock bass is again has a lot of more options because it's emulating. Actually, the rock bass is the one that's more like a P bass, isn't it? Your rock bass. Let's have a look at the rock bass. So yeah, so here you've got all of the options. So you've got your pickup selector, so you can go neck, bridge, both, or the stereo option there. And then you've got your neck volume, so that's all these volume knobs that you have on your bass guitar. So you've got your neck volume, neck tone, and bridge tone. So you can go bass and treble, and overall volume on there, and then decide which pickups you're using, whether it's neck, bridge, or both. You just got a bass tremor bear. Congratulations. You can learn how to use your own bass by using this one. Let's go back over to our manual. We've got very similar options here for session bass and modern bass with volumes, bridge, and neck, and just regular ones for the modern bass as well. Now, the American upright bass has a bunch of other options that we can play with here. So let's dive over to the upright. We have the growl controls the volume of the upper harmonics created by string resonating against the fretboard. You've got the growl attack controls the time it takes for the growl to become audible. Longer notes have longer growl attacks. High notes have faster. Gotcha. And noises increases the probability of various instrument noises such as rattles, buzzes, and crackles based on the velocity and what note you play. This parameter is a submix of the rattles, releases, and handling levels in the studio bass details parameters. Gotcha. So we've got some basics and then we've got some details, which we'll go into in a memento. So here in the basics for your upright, you've got the growl. So let's, should we make it play something? Let's just play in a part, shall we? That was just awful. Oh, I don't even know what key I was playing into. What's going on there? But yeah, let's just turn up the growl here so we can listen to it. I don't really hear much difference. Why don't we, can we bring in a loop instead? I don't think Johnson's playing is worthy of that. Let's find a loop that we can bring in here. Do we have any MIDI bass loops? Oh yeah. Wait, why is this on? That's like they're all going to be electronic ones, aren't they? Oh, here we go. Let's play the disco glow electric bass. We'll bring this in here, and we'll actually make its chords. We'll paste region chords to global track. There you go. And we'll separate it out here to make it across 8 bars. And then we'll do the same thing again here. We'll tap it. I do love the chord stuff. We'll paste region chords to global track. All right. So we'll play this along here. Oh no, so now it's using the sampler, so it's using a muted electric bass sample. But that's okay, because what we should be able to do, if I'm smart enough, is delete this and bring back in our studio bass instead. Studio Instruments, Studio Bass. Now we should be able to get our American upright. Oh, I double tapped it away. Studio bass, come back. Come back. Bass, come back. All right, go out of edit mode, Johns. All right, there we go. So we'll go back to our American upright. Turn off that one and bring this up here. Okay, so that was a long way around to getting ourselves back here and having something to play with. So okay, so I think I'm still not hearing like the noises or anything properly here. Let's turn on the noises all the way up to top. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, now I hear it. So yeah, so if you want some like really clean sound, you can drive it up, or if you want to get the sort of down dirty jazz nightclub sort of sound, you can do that. So that's kind of cool. Now, we do have a bunch of details as well that we can drive into here. So in Logic Pro for iPad, the Studio Bass Details parameter lets you add portamento slides between notes and adjust sonic qualities of the bass, such as the noise of fingers, strings, and electric circuits. You can also choose between mono and polyphonic voice settings and set the prevalence of open string tones in your performance. So we'll race through these because we're running out of time, and I need to explore these in more detail, which I'll do offline, so you don't have to watch me struggle so much. But let's go through some of these. So for our electric basses, let's bring this back to an electric bass. We'll go back to our favorite. In fact, we'll go to the modern bass. We haven't played with the modern bass much. So now we've got this sound. That's such a low bass sound, isn't it? We could probably bring this up a bit. Let's see if we can change our key signature. If we change it up from C up to G, it's going to raise it a bit. Nope, it's going to lower it. If we now transpose this up, though, I've got to remember how to transpose. It's the blind leading the blind here sometimes. I'm just going to edit it and move it up. Or do we just go back to the bass player? No, let's stay with it. You like watching me struggle, right? Let's select all of this and take it up. Let's just take it up because it's all the way down there. If we tap and hold and drag, let's bring it up to here. I've got no idea what key we're in now. Cool. Definitely sounds better. So we've got all of our main settings here. Under your details, this is where we control the portamento, which seems to be it is set the time it takes to slide from one note to another. So you can set this in milliseconds. So you can either make it slide slowly between notes, or you can make it slide really fast between notes. And you can do it either at a note, as in like a quarter note, eighth note, do-do, 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 like that. Yeah. And you can turn that back to milliseconds, or you can have it on a note value. That's kind of cool. We've got string noise there. So you heard we had lots of string noise, but if we turn that off, in fact, let's turn everything down. So you're not hearing a lot of it. Let's turn up the string noise and we'll hear that. Hum and hiss. So yeah, you can control the string noise, the release noise, and the hum and the hiss there. That pitch bend stuff I was playing with before, and your voicing mode. So you can go polyphonic, monophonic, or mono per string. So if you want to just make it completely fake, you could go polyphonic, which means you could basically play the same note, like two notes on one string that is not possible. Or monophonic just means you can only play one at a time. Mono per string, I think, would be the most logical to use for most of these. And open string. So you can either use, avoid, or prefer. So if we go to avoid, that it means that it's not going to play open, which means you won't get that sort of, it'll play the fifth fret rather than the open of the lower string. So let's play with that, with the prefer not to avoid that open. See how it's playing there instead of down on the open string? So you're just going to get a slightly different tone there. And this is where we get to dial in what our controller is going to do to control the different articulation, which again is way outside of. I don't use this sort of stuff, to be honest. I don't use articulation because I don't use MIDI controllers to play virtual instruments. Probably should. Let's go to the upright. And yeah, we'd already played with the details because you got your rattle, your releases, and your handling noises. So you can play with them, and the rest of it's kind of the same. So there's a lot to explore in here. And guess what? I didn't even touch on this, the bass amp designer. So not only can you adjust the player, you can adjust the presets, you can adjust the sound patches, which adjust all of the sounds that you get here in the studio bass. You can then decide what bass amp it's going to go through, and you can change all of your amp settings with presets and with all of your amp tweaks and dials and knobs. There is just so much in here. You could spend days just dialing in tones and not actually making any music. So don't do that, but do have some fun and explore and play around with all of this, because you're going to get different bass tones and sounds all the time as well. Alrighty, let us finish off here because we are coming up to the hour mark. If you do have any final questions, feel free to put a Q in front of your comments and ask any questions that you have. If you're watching on the replay, don't worry, we love you just as much. If you have questions, I'm always down there in the comment section answering your questions, and that is pretty much bringing me to an end for this week of weekend of live streams. Again, don't forget that we have some cool stuff coming your way at the end of the week. We've got myself with Jade over on her channel talking about Logic Pro for iPad. I feel like a broken record. I'm like, here's some more things about Logic Pro for iPad, but it is the flavor of the month and it is pretty gosh darn cool. I'll also be chatting to Patrick at the end of the week about Logic Pro for iPad and his experience thus far. And yeah, it will be all good. The new amps, exactly. There's a lot of cool stuff in the new amps that you can play around with. It's like it's just so much. It's just so much under the hood that I've only really just scraped the surface, and I know that there's so much more. I didn't even go into a lot of the other options that we have there, and we didn't look at electronic bass as well, because there's a whole lot of other sounds that you can get under the electronic bass also, which, yeah, is just a whole thing upon itself. And then we've also got the percussionists and electronic drums that we haven't covered as well here. There's also the studio piano, which we haven't covered, so with your piano player. So again, I've already done 8 videos on Logic Pro for iPad. There's probably at least another 8 in the next week that I need to create. So I'm going to take the rest of the day off though. I'm going to go watch Game 7 of the Vancouver Edmonton game in the NHL. So I'd love to see Vancouver get up just quietly. I know Connor McDavid and Edmonton and all that, but for our mate Gary Hubbs over there in Vancouver, BC, I'd love Vancouver to get up. Though Brock Besser's out now, they don't have Thatcher Demko in goal. Could be tough. I know. You thought you were going to get through an entire live show without me talking hockey. And then, bam, right at the end, the hockey comes back. Let's finish up here. Well, we've got 4 minutes left. Let's dive back in here. I like these drums, but I want to bring our bass player back in here because I reckon this sounded cool. I want to add some keys to this jam. I reckon we definitely need this little track needs like an organ player, doesn't it? So we need to change this because remember, you don't have to be stuck with the studio piano here. We can actually change this up. We can go in here to our instrument patches and maybe we want like a Hammond B3. We have like or maybe an electric piano. Let's go electric piano. Electric piano. Maybe we'll go with the electric piano. No man's Let's bring this in here. I reckon this might work for us. Terrible. That's better. One's actually using the e-piano plugin. Yeah, that's the vibe we were going for here. This is beautiful. Hello, Third Person Productions. Hope you're well. Final question here from Emilio. Are the studio bass plugin without any audio effects sampled in direct input without the bass? Yeah, that's a good question. I would say so. Let's do that. So studio bass. If we turn off the bass amp designer on the studio bass, what do we get? We do get the other effects. So yeah, let's turn off all the effects because this has not only the bass amp designer, but some compression. It's got some oh man, it's got everything. It's even got chroma glow. Yeah. So just the studio bass, I reckon it would be a DI, like a direct. Sounds like it, doesn't it? Yeah. And then you put it through the bass amp. Yeah, so it sounds like it is just an absolutely flat sampled bass. We'll turn these back on. So yeah, good question though. Very good question. And yeah, you can change the amp, so you can add amps. You could even take the straight DI bass and put it through like a, what's that cool bass set, the Mammoth bass amp plugin. In fact, let's try. Oh, we're going. So this is what happens. I get to this point, and then we go over time. So if instead of wanting to use those, you wanted to use an external bass amp, if we add an audio effect here and we go, can I go Mammoth? Mammoth. Let's add the Mammoth bass. Both the Mammoth. So yeah, we can use the Mammoth plugin to. Yeah, so you can use external bass amps in there instead of the standard one. But I don't know. I think that the bass amp designer and the drum kit designer and the stuff we have for stock plugins, man, is Logic Pro just juicy and overflowing with good stuff. All right, that's going to do it for us. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes direct does sound cool, and sometimes you can blend them. So sometimes you don't need the whole amp. You can blend your DI and your amp signal. We are at the end here. We've got 20 seconds to go, so let's go out with a little bit of groove here, folks. Thanks for being here. Remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Keep creating. And I'll see you next time right here on GarageBand Weekly. Yeah.